start with the race for Champions League football with Lianne Sanderson and Julien Laurent, because it seems as though bar Villa and Fulham, nobody was really interested in advancing their cause in the top half of the table this week.
Yeah, it was a good weekend for Villa. When you look at who lost, and I think their Champions League game, I think they've got Southampton in between it, so we know that they struggle a little bit when they play their European games, but then you've got Southampton. It seems to be like it's aligning for Villa. It's a really good one too, and against a good Forest side, so it's a good game for them, and they've probably got good confidence and momentum at the moment. They're probably feeling really good. They'll need that as well.
Yeah.
They'll need that.
And the timing of it for Villa was great this weekend, because it was a Saturday evening. They'd seen some of their rivals drop points during the day, and they knew there were a couple of games to come on Sunday as well.
Yeah, and I think what Nottingham Forest are doing at the moment is incredible, isn't it? I mean, Morgan Gibbs, Wright, Yates have been brilliant. It's amazing what happens. You know, Espirito Santo at Tottenham obviously didn't work out. Then he goes to Forest. They sign all those players. I think it was like 22 in one window, and it's now coming into fruition, and there's a good vibe about the club. Do you know, like when Leicester won the league, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but like there's a feeling that, you know, when you get past Christmas time and you're still in and around it, everyone thought that Nottingham Forest were going to slip away. Obviously that midweek game against Manchester United as well, getting that win, but the Villa result, I thought, you know, was the one they were looking for.
Yeah, and it was, you know, as far as Villa are concerned, and managing to get the 3 points, managing to get one over on their rivals, and just to look as fresh and as together as they did, having made 8 changes to the starting lineup, is just highlighting how well that squad's been put together.
Yeah, the new signings from January, we talked about that on the show before, made a massive benefit to this team in the rotation.
And the fact that they hadn't, any of them really played that much up to that point is
so
what...
they were fresher themselves, even Malen, Dortmund. So that was good. The second half, maybe not so much in that game against Forest. The first half, very good. The second half, and it's a bit the Villa season, they're a bit up and down in the same game sometimes. Their goal difference is 0.
Yeah, Emery was furious when in the post-match interview. Everybody was expecting him to be delighted, and he was like, yeah, no, it was fine, but I wasn't happy with the second half.
Because I think, they were close to dropping points. They should not have dropped, really. So, but it's a very interesting season. The FA Cup is there, the Champions League is still there in Paris on Wednesday night, and potentially a top 5 finish again.
You know something as well, you have to look at Asensio and Rashford, how important it is for them to try and get Champions League football, because you have to feel that they've had a massive part to play since they've come in. So what are Villa going to do if they do get it? Are they going to sign those 2 players? And if not, they've got to sign 2 players of that calibre. So I think it's important that they get the Champions League, if they can even convince those 2 to stay.
But they could only convince them to stay,
That's right.
if there's Champions League.
There's Champions League,
I don't think they can afford to keep them, and that they be attractive enough.
Very big for them.
Yeah.
I think it's big. We have to talk about managers as well, because we often talk about individuals, but you and I worked a lot in the Europa League, and Emery, I feel like we always talk about him at Arsenal, never really being given kind of the respect, I think, from the moment he got there, taking over after Arsene Wenger. But I think the job he's done at Aston Villa, unbelievable. You know, under Steven Gerrard, they're in the relegation zone, and then you look at what's happening. I think Asensio, since he had that injury when he was at Madrid, he's never really the same player again, but it's amazing what can happen. And Rashford, I'm still like, as a someone as, you know I feel about Manchester United, but I think we all want him to do well, but I want to see it long term. We've seen Rashford have glimpses like this. It's happened many times at Manchester United, so hopefully he can continue that. I think getting his first goal was massive.
What about, I mean, we're going to take a whistle-stop tour around these contenders, because there's so many of them. But what about Forest? Was there enough from that second half performance to suggest, you know, their position in the table can be consolidated? Their position in the top 5, it doesn't really matter whether, because going into that game on Saturday evening, they could have closed the gap on Arsenal to 2 points if they'd won that. But whether it's second, third, fourth, fifth,
I think if they could get Champions League, they'd be happy with it, because like Lianne said, when we talked about the chaos of the amount of players that were coming in, with Cooper, you know, he didn't know what was happening. Then you bring Nuno in and he sorts it all out, and now he's put a proper team together defensively, midfield solid, brilliant pace on the wings, goal scoring Chris Woods. I'm sure they wasn't expecting to get as much out of him as they've got out of him.
No one Awoniyi in the game against Villa.
Exactly, and you can see how disappointed they were, but at the same time, you're looking at a team now that, for me, they could consolidate themselves in top 5, 4 for a few seasons to come if they carry on now, because you can feel there's a change in them. They know they can do it. 2 points off of Arsenal. If I'm going into that game and I'm hearing that, I'm probably going all out to beat Villa. going all out
really
to beat
disappointed
Villa.
if they don't make it.
I
Now,
think so, yeah.
I mean, if you ask Nottingham Forest fans beginning of the season, Champions League, I think it was like 200-1 or something. It was incredible, the odds. Now they're there. If they were to, I can't see them slipping out of there
If
at
they
this
slipped
point.
up now, it would be a massive, massive fall off. But I think that they deserve it the way they've played this season. They've deserved it.
And they've got decent fixtures. I mean,
Yeah.
City in there is a tough one, but there's an opportunity for them to get
but
one
City
over on a team who are
City
there.
used to be a tough one.
More looking in and that's the FA Cup anyway.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there's an opportunity there for them to get one over on a team, even get a psychological advantage.
But you know, when you look at those fixtures, there's not one of those fixtures there that I don't feel that Forest could win. You know, Palace are in good form at the minute and obviously got the semi-finals and everything. But I think that there's none of those fixtures there that Forest in the form that they're in are afraid of.
And what's interesting as well, I mean, we've sort of touched on it a little bit, but Jules, the approach to recruitment, when we talked about Aston Villa being so precise in exactly what they wanted and just adding individuals to their squad, Forest just went, when they first came up, they were like, got loads of players leaving on loan. I think they ended up with like 6 first-team players or something, and they're like, but they needed to bring everybody in, but it felt a little imprecise, shall we say, in terms of who they were bringing in.
Going to the shop.
Just
But now look, it's coherent. They've got a really strong style of play under Nuno, and normally when Chris Wood is fit, they've got an outlet for that going forward as well with all that pace.
Yeah, and I think they wanted the players that suit Nuno's style, and we said very strong defence. So Matt Sales comes in, one of the best league keeper in France. Murillo, Milenkovic, one of the signings of the summer for me, one of the best defenders of the season. Then the pace on the wings that Wrighty just mentioned with Elanga coming, and I think that was a really good coup to get Elanga away from Manchester United.
Yep.
Don't remind me.
No, I know, sorry. I had to, you know. So it works like that, and now they even brought Edu in to overseeing the whole Marinakis group, really, not just Forest, but all the clubs that they have. And you feel that structure from top to... There's no secret. You're not that successful if you don't have the right structure.
You know, the thing is, Kels, with everything like Julian's just said there and what Marinakis is trying to build, Edu leaving Arsenal and I'm thinking Arsenal's a good project to be on, trying to go for the league, trying to go for Champions League, but they obviously couldn't offer him enough in respects of progression for himself. But when you look at Marinakis and what he's able to offer him, and you're looking at what Forest are doing and the fact that we're talking about an owner that wants to win the Premier League and wants to win the Champions League. So you can see that there will be, like someone like Chris Wood, you probably see there's going to be a big striker coming to Forest soon because they're going to need that. They've seen that they've needed that for their progression now. But I can see Forest really solidified in that top 5, no problem.
If they make Champions League, then you start to attract even like bigger names, don't you? Like you're mentioning.
And Forest is an unbelievable place to be. I love Forest.
It's a great place to go and watch football, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but are they looking at tweaking then? Maybe another striker in the style of a Chris Wood, but not wholesale changes?
You want to get kind of like-minded, to the players. You've got like-minded players, so you need someone for when Elanga's maybe gets fit, gets injured or something. Hudson-Odoi, you know, with Yates in the midfield as well, that kind of profile is brilliant. But the 2 centre-halves and the goalkeeper, you know, I think Nico Williams as well, fantastic. And Ola Aina, honestly, that back four with that goalkeeper, that's a brilliant foundation to build on.
They definitely need the depth, though, don't they? Because you look at when Newcastle made it into the Champions League, they gave it a good go. But I think you see, like, the big teams, when they get to the Champions League, you have to have the quality of players to be able to sustain it. Because it's a different ball game, isn't it? And if any of those players were to get injured, it's like a cog in an engine. You take one out, then it kind of, like, you know, all implodes.
Yeah, and despite all those players who came in, they've used the fewest players this season, Nottingham Forest.
But even when Morato come in, it's not the same. It's not the same at the back. When they go to a back 3, it's not the same. Olaina is out of contract in the summer, and that's
big news.
What's going to happen.
Need to sort that out.
And bigger clubs might come from Murillo at some point, surely, for his age and the quality that he has. Maybe even Milenkovic. So
I like him.
Yeah, a lot. Those two are very, very good. Yeah. And you wouldn't be surprised if bigger clubs are coming to try to get them.
You say bigger clubs, and yet you've got a 2-time European Cup winning club.
But you know what I mean?
And if they qualify for the Champions League, then there aren't too many clubs around who are going to say, well, we can promise you.
And the grass isn't always greener either.
Yeah, but Forest can't guarantee them Champions League football.
I wasn't saying that to get into a row about what constitutes a big club. I was just saying it makes a big difference in terms of...
I think if you're Murillo and Milinkovic and maybe even Elanga and those kind of guys, you want to play Champions League or at least Europe every season.
Yeah.
It's what we said that about Newcastle the other day. Isak can only play Champions League football. If Newcastle can't offer him that every season, at some point he will leave. It's inevitable.
Yeah, we'll get on to them because they've got those 2 games in hand, which could prove very, very useful. Meanwhile, Chelsea seem to be faltering again. And the story of their season has been inconsistency, and a lot of that is put down by Enzo Maresca to the fact that it's a young side and they're a developing side. And, OK, fine, but it's April. Can they still be a young and developing side and inconsistent because of that?
I do feel that when Chelsea were doing really well, I think they were second or something, and he came out and he said, "No, we're nowhere near." When Chelsea were playing well, a young side playing well,
and he said, "We're not contenders."
He said, "We're not contenders." It's almost as if you're telling that young team, "Yeah, they're overachieving." You almost giving them the capability to like ease off because no one's expecting us to do this. It kind of coincided with their form kind of dropping off, but now. Obviously, I think this season will be a very good learning curve for them, experience-wise. I still think Chelsea will maybe do it. I think Chelsea might still sneak it, but at the same time, they do need some real experience in that team.
Do you not think, though, Ray, when you're saying, I know what you're saying about him coming out saying they can't win it, but I thought in the dressing room, he'd be saying to them, I'm going to say this out there, but in here.
Well, you'd hope that would
happen. Yeah, you would hope that.
With the way they performed after that, Lee, you can see that it's almost like giving somebody the leeway to say, take some time off. Don't do the gym today. Yeah. And then you can do the gym if you want. You know what I mean? And you don't do it.
What you do?
Yeah. No, that's the voice in my head. I always do the gym when the voice says don't do the gym.
You like to beat the voice in your head, don't you?
Beat the voice in the head. But I just feel that going into that dressing room saying that at a time where let's just see where this goes. Big them up and saying, listen, this team's doing well. I just want them to carry on doing what they're doing. They're working hard. Give the guys that feeling of, let's just keep going. Look, Leicester won the league when everybody said, but they'll drop off. Yeah. But Leicester themselves believed because they went to the next game. You know what I mean? With players that were put together, almost bolted together.
But also Leicester outran their stats as well, didn't they? They outperformed their stats continuously over a period of 38 games, which almost never happens in that kind of situation. But what Chelsea have done is kind of almost underperform. I mean, we'll get to the goalkeeper in just a second and the problems that they have there, even though they've got plenty of options.
Yeah, 12
none of them seem 12.
I think that's 12 they have.
Yeah, and none of them are the one seems to be the right one for them. Yeah. But it's their away form as well. I mean, we shouldn't really be too surprised when they drop points away from home, regardless of who they drop them against, because it's not worked out, and it's hard to work out why that might be.
Yeah, I don't know. It's lack of character, maybe, a leadership, experience. We said it's a young team. In this game, I felt that Maresca got it wrong with the rotation. Why are you rotating? Because you play Legia Warsaw on Thursday night in the Conference League. Yeah. Well, really, you should win that competition pretty easily. So I'm not sure I really understood how many players...
Maybe he's overthinking it, man.
Maybe. And Brentford hadn't won at home in 7 games, I think.
Yeah.
Their last... Well, yeah, because Brentford... in a complete turnaround from the start of the season, suddenly couldn't win a game at home. Their last 3 away games of the season, Chelsea, Fulham, Newcastle and Forest, which means either there's a real opportunity to get points against teams around them who are also going for European places, or they're coming up against teams away from home where they've been vulnerable, who have got something to fight for.
That's a tough 3 games.
I think Chelsea get away with a lot of criticism they should be getting, to be honest. I think, at what point they spent all this money, they're signing players to 7-year contracts, they spent $1 billion, and it's almost like, each season it's like, they're doing okay, we finally see a plan, and then they should be winning things like the Champions League. It sounds crazy, but they've spent so much money. I wish some other teams had the luxury of spending that much money. But it goes to show you that if you don't have the structure and the plan in place, look at Nottingham Forest. Look at what those types of teams do. Even Bournemouth, look at what those, Brighton. You know, when you have the right structure of what could happen, I just think, for some reason, people don't seem to want to say, Chelsea should be doing better. I don't know why that is.
Do you think we're buying into the argument too much that this is a work in progress? No, but I mean, generally, people are,
But what, at some point...
You turn your phone off.
At some point...
Siri's talking to you. Do you want to take it?
No, when are they going to come to fruition of, this whole situation? It's like every year, when Pochettino was there, you could see what he was trying to do. Enzo Maresca, see what they're trying... At what point are we going to see what they're doing after all that money?
It's a badly constructed squad, there's no doubt. For all the money they spend, it's terrible. To have Nkunku still as a number 9 in a game like this, Drewsbury Hall in midfield, I mean, come on.
I still feel that they could sneak in, even though those 3 games are quite tough games. If they've got any ambitions of getting it, then those are the kind of games come to the end of the season when they've got something to play for. is to win.
Yeah, and their home form is going to be... It's a bit like going to the gym and only exercising one arm the whole time.
Wrighty's voice in your head as well. Don't go.
And then, exactly, beating the voice in your head. But then coming out and saying, well, I'm going to the gym 6-7 hours a week. I don't understand why I'm not seeing results. It's kind of that sort of mentality. Look, as far as Manchester City are concerned, actually there's not been that much criticism of them this season. I think because everybody very recently remembers how brilliant they've been and how high the heights that they've reached have been. They have had a season like this before as well, which was the one where Liverpool won the title last time, which ended in lockdown. But in terms of this season, coming to the end of an era, obviously we're seeing the end of Kevin De Bruyne as a Manchester City player. That looks like it's coming to an end. Yeah. But it feels like that it's the end of an era for a lot of those City players.
Yeah, but I think the main factor of the whole thing is that the Pep signed again. So he's obviously looking to build something up again, and so we have to see.
Haaland there for 7
years or
9 years.
9 years. So you do feel a bit of confidence in them because he's going to be there and he will get the players he wants and he will, he will rebuild it. So we'll have to see how that goes. But the fall off from last season to this season has been so dramatic that you just don't know what's happened.
I don't think we've ever really seen this.
Unbelievable fall off.
I mean, I know we've criticised Manchester United, but for City to play in that game in the way that they did, knowing that they do need the points to qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah, that was really poor.
I found that hard to understand. Or is it that you've got players who are motivated by a bit more than just used to being motivated by a bit more than just qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, both teams had nothing to play for in that game, but you play, it's a Manchester derby.
City did.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah, but it felt like that. It was as flat as a pancake.
Which is it because it's not what they've been playing for previous seasons? It's not a league title. It's not a Champions League.
That's what it is. It's just a position. And they're normally the team that people are chasing, which is quite interesting to look at them and see them finishing like this. And I thought Gary Neville made a great point when he said the fact that they all seem quite happy about a draw. And before, you probably... It's the only game I remember myself. If I drew, I'd probably walk off but with my bad sportsmanship, I probably wouldn't shake hands in that game if I didn't win it. It's the kind of game that means so much, So, I thought that he was right in what he said there. And I thought that, again, for a derby, it was a poor game. And City's mentality, they could still finish the season strong and, get into the Champions League like we all expect them to. But something's drastically wrong. Something's drastically wrong there.
It's happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Odd. Wouldn't it? City in the Europa League would be
good for them.
League even.
Yeah.
Oh, potentially.
They played that game.
It'd be good for them.
Do you think that's likely? That they miss out on the Champions League?
If Newcastle win the 2 games in hand that we mentioned,
they
will be 4 points clear. 4 points with 5 games to go. It's not a lot, but it's still a bit of a gap. City have given us.
It's not like City are blasting teams away like they used to. So 4 points with how many games?
So it would be 6 left.
6 left. That's. City could struggle to get in there.
I think so.
I think we expected City to just come good all of a sudden. Like, we were like, they had this blip, and then they're going to come good. But I think when you watch that derby yesterday, like Phil Foden this year, every player goes through moments. There's no doubt Phil Foden's still a top player. Ruben Diaz, like a lot of the players, Kevin De Bruyne, the passes, I mean, he's one of the best players the Premier League's ever seen. But a lot of the passes are being intercepted. I mean, Garnacho went in the first minute. Diaz could have been sent off. He wasn't a sending off because he wasn't the last player. But I never felt like City were ever going to score yesterday.
Yeah, it was a strange game, not a hugely entertaining game, and I think we've covered it as much as we need to.
Yeah, let's move on.
But what we are interested in is which way it's going to go come the end of the season in terms of Champions League qualification. And as we've pointed out, Newcastle find themselves with 2 games in hand. One of them comes against Leicester this evening, so you've got to say they're strong favourites for that one. Then it's Crystal Palace, which is a slightly tricky, maybe a bit more of an unpredictable situation, but they've got themselves in a really good position. They end this season with a trophy, their first in decades, and then a Champions League place finish, and that's a great season. Yeah,
it would be amazing. I mean, I guess after the League Cup win, it goes either 2 ways. One is there's the compression and there's the parade and 300,000 people there, and you're happy and you kind of finish the season happy but on the road a bit, or it gives you hunger to get more and to get that top 5 finish. And really, it's in their own hands if you think about it. Yeah, it's in their own hands for Newcastle. They've got a really good chance, Wrighty, as well. I mean, are we going
But look, I'm looking as well, because if Newcastle do win their 2 games in hand, it almost sort of takes Fulham down out the equation a little bit as well, because suddenly that gap looks a little bit trickier for them of 3 points to Aston Villa.
I think Fulham are like, when you look at that league table, if you said this a year ago, that is what the teams would be, and Man United and Tottenham would be in the bottom half, you'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't even seem like a realistic thing. But I think when you look at a team like Newcastle, again, you know, the players they have individually, Tonali, Guimaraes, Isak, like, real good consistency and consistent players. I think Newcastle are a top side, but I agree with what Julian said. You know, sometimes when you've played in those types of games, the fans have come out, the emotional, I mean, you've played in big games, right? Like the emotion that comes with playing in like finals, sometimes there's a bit of a hangover after that. But I think, as we've seen, you know, Eddie Howe and the job that he's done there, unbelievable.
You know, the thing with that is that I remember that my first trophy for Arsenal was the League Cup. And then the second one was the FA Cup. Obviously, then we got the Cup Winners' Cup. And we ended up getting the Premier League.
Right, big Ed.
No. What I'm saying, it did. It actually went.
Medals on the table.
Yeah, I'm just but like, there's no Champions League medals in there. There's no stuff. So you know, I mean, it's not like I'm throwing them in. I'm trying to show the momentum that it gives you, because you want that feeling again. So you're hoping that Newcastle have got that feeling. Right, let's go again, because that's what happens. When you've seen people together celebrating because of what you've all done together, it does make you want to go to that next one. That's why people say, win that first one and then go from there.
Don't apologise about bringing up the trophies.
Yeah, I know.
No, I bring mine up every day.
That's why you're here. That's the point of it. And what was that?
Golden Boot.
Golden Boot, was it?
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, yes.
I won a Paris Cup as well in 1994.
Sorry to throw
I
it
got
all
my
on the
50 metres
table.
badge in swimming. Coming up next, we are going to be talking about the title race.